Taya, with the work you are doing with the foundation, what is kind of the state of the union currently that you're seeing the landscape around American marriages and service member marriages?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the MTNTOUGH Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Diefendorfer, and I'm so glad that you are here. It is our goal every single week to bring you an inspiring guest that helps you stay dangerous, that adds some mental toughness tools to your mental fitness toolbox. And thank you for making us one of the top mindset shows in the country. Two things before we dive into today's guest. One is, if you are a first-time listener to this show, make sure that you know that you are able to train on the MTNTOUGH app for 6 weeks for free as a listener of this show. All you need to do to take advantage of 6 weeks free is go to MTNTOUGH.com, click Start Free Trial, and then check out using the code MOUNTAINPOD, MTNPOD, all caps, all one word. That will get you guys rolling on MTNTOUGH. Secondly, my Brotherhood program still has some spots left. All you need to do to apply to the Sword Brotherhood is just check it out at thesword.life. Shifting over to today's guest, this is a special episode. On the show today, we have both Taya Kyle and Colton Kyle, Chris Kyle's wife, widow, and son. We had an amazing time together. They came out to Bozeman, hung out in Montana with me for a couple days. We went to Yellowstone. We saw the elk bugle. We saw the elk rut. We did a weighted vest hike up a mountain outside of Yellowstone. Had a couple meals together. What a phenomenal duo. A phenomenal family. This conversation is surely going to exceed your expectations. So please stand by for Taya Kyle and Colton Kyle. I wanted to dig into some of this a little bit more and unpack this topic around. So we've been spending the day together, had dinner last night, went into Yellowstone Park today, saw a little bit of Montana, saw some elk, went on a hike. One thing that has struck me for sure is that Colton is an awesome, mature man for 21 years old. And we were talking about this a little bit in the vehicle ride on the way back around, like, did you just luck out, Taya, in that Colton is an old soul and very dialed in and mature and focused and disciplined for his age? Or was it a lot of intentionality throughout the last 7, 8, 9 years that you think led to where Colton is at today?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's both. Honestly, you know, we have friends of ours who are in their 40s or 50s, and they're like, I want to be Colton when I grow up, you know? And I remember, I mean, Chris used to call him little man because he really was born that way in many ways. And I also think God assigns us our children that are really his children, knowing everything that we're going to face. And he very intentionally and divinely organizes family structures for how we're all going to grow, the parents, the kids, everything. And so I look back now, as we get to do in hindsight, and say, I mean, it's humbling. It makes me almost want to cry when I look at what God did for our family, because he knew what we would face, and he knew the dynamics that we would need to not only survive it, but thrive in it. And he gave our family this amazing treasure of Chris for the time that we had him. Colton was born differently in that he's been strong-minded, huge-hearted, disciplined. I mean, you know, we joked at one point talking about how he would just look at his dad and be like, no, that's not right, from the time he was like 4, you know?
Very direct.
Very direct. And he is a perfect match to his sister, right? McKenna adores him. They are very close friends and always have been, but they are very different and uniquely gifted. And so God knows all this. I mean, it's weird to say you're not trying to get pregnant, but I mean, I was trying to prevent it when I got pregnant with McKenna, and it was like, God's like, no. These two are going to be close in age, and they're going to be right with each other every step of this long, hard road that you guys are going to walk. And so in she comes, and here's Colton, and it's like his strategic and analytical mind in the face of adversity forged him in ways that I think just took his natural God-given gifts and magnified them. It's like a force multiplier. It's like what the devil meant to put us in check. God was like, you don't know what I put in these kids, so checkmate, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to come in, I'm going to force multiply, bring it. Yeah. Right? And that's how I see God sometimes in the face of the devil is like, oh, you adorable. Watch what I'm going to do with that, right?
He's good at that.
He's good at that. And so, I'll let Colton answer that too, because I think he has a unique perspective. But from the time he was young, he would look at things and be like, Mom, I think you need to share with me what's going on so I'm prepared when I'm an adult and I need to know these things. And I thought, whoa, I mean, that's like 8 or 9 years old. He's like, no, tell me what's really happening.
Which is hard because your instinct is to shelter them.
Yes, 100%. You speak to that though, Colton. What do you think? Do you notice the difference? I mean, it might be hard for you to speak to, but.
Yeah, I certainly don't really see it from the outside unless it's McKenna.
Your sister, McKenna, for those who don't know.
Yes. There are a couple pieces of scripture that come to mind. What man meant for evil, God intended for good. And not all translations say intended, but a buddy of mine pointed that out in a Bible study that we did, and I thought that was unique, is that man did something that was evil, and God intended that for good, meaning before it happened, he had the intentions of that being good to benefit people. And then God works all things together for the good of those who love him, as well as what we were talking about. And so we've talked about maybe not being as close or as developed in our faith had we not gone through the consecutive attacks from the enemy like we have. And it's very possible that we might not have had that. But what we can recognize is the beauty and the blessing of being refined in the fire like that and doing it together. So I certainly know and recognize, especially as you pointed out to me, that people are who they are, and some of that you can't change. And I've gotten to see that with McKenna. I notice something about myself is I want to change. I want to do things differently. Whatever is quote unquote the best way is what I want to do. And not everybody feels that way, and it's okay to just be who you are and be present in whatever it is that's you're struggling with. Go ahead.
No, you reminded me. I remember there was a time when I already knew this about you, of course, right? But you said, Mom, I don't want to offend but I want to be better than you, and I want to be better than Dad was at things. And I was like, yes, you do, and you ought to be. Like, and I've had this conversation with McKenna too, where at one point she was very tearful. She's such a sensitive and strong soul. And she was like, Mom, I just don't know how you could, like love me, or God could love me when I do things that aren't right. And I said, I think it's different, McKenna, because I have a parent's view on this and you don't have that perspective yet. And she said, but I love you, but I can get really annoyed or something, with the way that you do things sometimes. And I was encouraging her the way I hope I've encouraged Colton, which is, look, this is the way generations improve. I think it's great. If you look at something I'm doing, I want you to think, I like that, I'd keep that, but when I'm, older, I want to fix that. Like, use me as I'm secure enough in our love that use me as a model for considering how you want to be better or improve. So when Colton said that, and I know both of them were like, oh, is that bad? I'm like, no, that is fantastic.
That's good. Yeah.
Evaluate the world. Iron sharpens iron. I learn, and I am a better person from learning from them and their strengths and the things that they bring to the table. And, both of them, through adversity, it's like I've logically kind of known these are ways to approach it. And when I falter, both of them consistently remind me, no, Mom, this is it. Like, they sharpened me right back. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome. Like, God knew what he was doing to get kids that were so in tune and capable to withstand and persevere and have the strength and the courage to also see other people and give direction from what they've lived through, in my most humble, biased opinion.
Yeah, I want to add to that a little bit, is noticing the things in our parents that we don't want to replicate. There's certainly a way to go about it and acknowledge it. Say, I don't want to do that. I don't like that for this reason or that, and this may be what I do in the future. And we can think that, and we can not do that. And then I obviously don't have kids yet, but what I notice, especially Pastor Matt has talked about this, is your kids present that unique challenge, and you recognize that you're doing the exact thing that you swore or vowed that you would never do with your kids. That's something that you kind of learned by nurture instead of nature from your parents. And I think that the way that cycle is broken is being able to look at it and say, why do I do that? Yeah. Like, why do these things happen? And really acknowledging it instead of coming at it from a perspective of almost anger and being stuck in that and just saying, I'll never do that. But you have to understand, why do you have an inclination to do that? And how are you going to prevent that from happening? Otherwise, it's going to be the same story likely with your kids as well.
No, that's actually a really good point. And both of them, too, Dustin, are like super analytical and curious. And I think their emotional intelligence is really high. And I don't know if that's just natural. I think it's God's gift. And I also think they've had to navigate such heavy emotional terrain from the time they were so little that I think they've gotten really in tune. And so I think that'll serve them well too.
And not just heavy, but complex.
Good point.
Right.
Speak to that. Yeah.
Well, I like to view things in black and white. There's right and there's wrong. But then when we deal with things, especially with family, and it's like, okay, we know maybe because of other people or what seems natural or our inclinations are, this is how you treat family. But what happens when they essentially go rogue in a way that you haven't seen? And then how do you balance this very worldly justice, the American justice system, which is retribution rather than restoration, which most of the rest of the world is restoration. But the American justice system is retribution, like, here's your punishment, basically, which is not very godly. We should be held accountable and to some extent punished. But there's very little room for effective restoration in the American justice system. And I think that it's not just the justice system. I mean, people had to create that, and that was Americans, and that was kind of who we were. Hard-willed, and we're going to do these things. We're going to do them well, no matter the cost. But when things like that play out in, for example, family dynamics, it kind of is like, how should I feel about this? How should I react? Because we notice, one, that there's a way that we should do things, and then two, there's a way that we do things.
Yeah.
And so how do we navigate getting to the place where we should do things and then also feeling good about that? And you really become challenged with that when it's complex and it's not just super black and white. This person is already my enemy, already tribalism not in my tribe, so I can hate them, or maybe not hate them, but I can deal with them more harshly. But then when they're supposed to be my tribe, when I'm supposed to love them, then what happens?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I do want to unpack this a little bit more from the perspective of, with Mountain Tough, I'm able to chat with a lot of men, talk to a lot of men, hear what a lot of men are struggling with. And one thing that is happening right now nationally is there would be tens of thousands of men that would pour into a conference with a guest speaker if you told them, we are going to teach you some of the ways that your son can become a man at a young age and be disciplined, responsible, focused, know what they want and go after what they want, and then also be true to their faith, and then even hold like biblical values over sex and marriage. If you said, I'm going to provide you some of those secrets so that can happen to your own sons, you could fill stadiums with that message. So men nationally are very hungry for that with their sons, but they're not able to quite get there. They're not able to quite execute on what they know they need to do, or they don't know what they need to do. And, some of that is a national problem with nationally, there's not much manhood ceremony type events happening like historically there was. But it does make me also wonder from your guys' experience, the other thing we know from mental toughness and from this podcast is a lot of sharpening comes from adversity. And you guys have faced an incredible amount of adversity, which certainly created some of Colton's demeanor now and his personality and his focus. But when we have children that don't have that adversity coming at them like it did for you guys, it's hard for parents to manufacture that in a way that leads to the same results. So then that always leads to the $1 million question, is it nature or nurture? And it always appears to be a little bit of both. But I guess, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I feel strongly about a few things with this. One is that it was very important to Chris. Some households, it's the dad says, you think like I do, or, there's trouble kind of thing. And it was very important to him to raise his son where he's his own man and he gets to have his own opinions from a very young age, even to the point of football games, right? And so, we had kind of a funny story with one of the football games, and he was like, Bubba, he called him Bubba, you can cheer for whoever you want. And it was an Eagles-Cowboys game. And Chris was a diehard Cowboys fan. And so Colton, for some reason, chose the Eagles. And the Eagles started spanking the Cowboys. And he was like, yes, cheering, whatever. And then it gets to be about halftime. Chris walks into the kitchen, kind of shakes his head a second, comes back, and he goes, Bubba, listen, you can cheer for whoever you want. But when you're cheering for the Eagles today, the rest of the game, do it in your head. No more out loud. I can't take this. No, but so number one, giving them the autonomy to be, that's a true story, but give them the autonomy. Number two, I think it's really important if we want men to lead. And it's something that I feel very strongly about. And I was not brought up this way, but I've noticed we have an organization for marriage. It is a game changer for women to realize that it is a sign of incredible strength and love and respect to your husband. Let him lead, right? Not because you're not capable, because you choose to. And so I wanted to raise my son to be comfortable in that. So Chris wanted him to be his own man. I wanted him to be his own man. From the time, it was flag football. Chris had just been killed, so Colton was probably 10. And we had a football team, and the practice was going to be on Sundays. And I knew he wanted to play football. And I sat with him at the kitchen, and I said, Colton, we got a situation here because I've just been kind of convicted on this sermon that we have to have a Sabbath, and it's literally one of the top 10 commandments. Top 10 to have a Sabbath. And we live in a society that we're just trying to fit it all in. And so if it's easier for the coaches, then we'll practice on Sunday. You want to play football, and this is the first year you're going to, we were just going from flag to tackle. So this was now it was getting kind of serious. So maybe he was 12. Anyway. And I said, your new coach wants to practice on Sundays. And if Dad were here, and I got really teary, I'm like, he could say something to the coach, and you could still be seen as a strong boy with a strong man at home who is saying, we're just not going to do it on Sunday. But you have a mom, and only a mom, and I don't want to cast you as that, mama's boy who just doesn't understand and have a bad start to football. And he said, Colton said, top 10 commandments? I said, yeah. And he said, then I think we honor what God wants.
Dang.
And I was
12.
Yeah. And I was like, really? You sure? And he was like, yeah. So I texted the coach and said, look, I know that this is going to come from a place that looks like maybe potentially a weak mom at home, but I'm doing this from a position of strength. I've talked to Colton. I hope you know that our heart is in. We will be all in every practice. We just won't make it on Sundays, and I hope you won't hold it against him. And he said, it's just because we work and all this stuff and and then he said, but I hear what you're saying. And then it was a couple days later, he said, we won't practice on Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
He changed a culture,
right,
essentially.
Right, for that team and that year. And I just thought, I'm so proud of Colton, and I respect him so much. And so I feel like if you want to raise a strong man, start early and start giving them decisions and start letting them, I feel like to the point where maybe it's a little much. I think Colton's probably carried too much adult stuff, frankly. And I feel sad about that in some ways. But I'll let you speak to that, Colton. What do you think?
I really like the empowerment aspect. I think that's very important. Not being afraid to give them responsibility and accountability, following through on punishments for the purpose of holding them accountable when things don't go well. I think we realize that there's a lot of pressure on young men. There's an epidemic of social or lacking in social activity, community, and it's coming online. And we talked about this, the intangible factor of being in person and being with other men. And because we don't have that, and we're so parasocial. We know people through social media, or we know people through podcasts even, and we connect with them and we relate to them. But we could never have a face-to-face conversation with them, or very rarely be able to do that. I think we see that and we get scared, or I say we, but I think parents especially get scared, and they say, I don't want to add any more stress to whatever they're already going through. But we know that men thrive when they have large responsibilities, when they have a big prize waiting on the other side, but they've got a lot of work to do, especially when it's all on the line. I know all the time in relationships specifically, like if you want a man to be something, he's got to be chasing a woman that needs him to be this one thing, or else she's gone.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to shape up pretty quickly. And I noticed that. And so I think pressure in the right ways is good, and getting them acclimated to these are the things that a man does. This is what it looks like. Introducing that to them early, and then following through, and then also being not just I'm only the punisher and I only deliver when you don't do something, but also very encouraging and like, great job. You did this well. That's great.
Yeah. And I actually, there was another situation that I think is pretty powerful, because we've talked a lot about anti-human trafficking, pornography, all of that stuff. And I think the other part, if you want to have a son who's going to lead and lead well, and I think Colton definitely does, I think you also have to be really bold in your conversations. And I remember so many conversations that could have been awkward, or you could think, whatever, but it was really important to me. I personally feel like knowledge is power, and I want my kids equipped with knowledge. And so I remember reading a book, and one of the things in there was this story. And I would really encourage your listeners to share this with their daughters and sons, frankly. But it was a woman who was writing about sexual responses. And she was a professor in college, and she would take questions that people could drop in the box anonymously, and then she would answer them. And the one that I thought was really important to share, I remember we were in the living room, and I was like, look, Colton, I need to tell you about this something. But this guy who was in a fraternity, he wakes up in the morning and he sees that a fraternity brother is raping a woman who's passed out, and he gets an erection. So his first thought is, oh my God, I'm going to knock that guy off of her. Like, this is freaking awful. But he gets an erection, and he's mortified, and he's full of shame, and he runs out and doesn't do anything, but he's writing in the anonymous box, like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, I think this is wrong. And she described really well, there are female victims of rape who are lubricated. They're not turned on. their body has a response, almost like she said, if you were to walk by a burger place and you're not at all hungry, but maybe you salivate and you're like, God, I don't even want that burger, And we have to be really bold to say, just because you have a physical response to something does not mean that you are driven by it, that you are spiritually attracted to it. And I think that's a big part of this confusion among the younger generation, is they're having a physical response to something and then thinking, oh, I must be attracted to that. And it's like, not always. You can sometimes have a physical response to something. And so we were talking about, like, make sure you're spiritually engaged with what it is. Having a reaction does not mean anything. It means you're a human being. Use your mind, use your spirit, use your discernment, refocus, don't be ashamed, and don't invite it in. Do you remember that conversation?
I do, as you were talking about it, yeah.
Yeah. There were those, or there was, like, we talked about pornography at a very young age because we realized it was on iPads and on the bus. And, and it was like, look, I think God gives us medication that will help certain things. He allows that. But when people abuse it, it's a drug and it hurts them. And this is the same thing. Sex is an incredible gift that God has given, a husband and wife to bond and have something sacred that they don't have with anybody else. It's amazing. It's one of the best things you'll ever have, right? And you're going to love it. And this is an abuse of it. And you're going to be exposed to that. And you might physically respond to it, but you got to. So I think those kind of honest conversations, this is the world we live in. And you had Bible studies, I know you and your guy friends, in high school. And I was so impressed because Colton would say, like, some of the newer guys would come in and you'd be like, guys, we can talk about anything here. And you can tell a story about, like, you'd bring up, I can tell you my memory, but, like, you'd say, let's talk about pornography. Who here's struggling,
vulnerable.
So if you want to speak to that, but I thought that was so cool you guys did that.
Yeah, it's most American men struggle with it and likely are addicted, not just struggling with it. And it depends on what you see as an addiction. So I've seen all kinds of statistics, but Christian men specifically are a lot more likely to diagnose the same amount of porn usage as an addiction. And so secular men who may not see it as something bad will use it just as much and not classify it as an addiction. We know from a spiritual and faith-based perspective that just because the world doesn't classify something as the same category that we do, it can still be what we see it as. They just don't recognize it yet. And it's really, it's an epidemic. I think it's like 2/3 of Christian men who are church attending have somewhat regular porn usage. That's insane.
Yeah.
And it speaks to how powerful that is for especially men, and it certainly affects women just as negatively when it does. We know it's more likely a vice going to be used against men. And so the most important thing we can do is bring it out into the open and talk about it, and just exactly what you're saying is not be ashamed of it, because when we cover it up, other people don't know about it. They think they're alone. We know that suicides come largely from isolation, which breeds depression and then all kinds of dark thoughts. And so when you think you're fighting a battle alone, nobody understands what you're going through, or if other people knew, they would condemn me. They would think less of me. It's really hard.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. Got to bring it to the light.
So I think that's it. I think we have to be bold in those conversations and just empower young men to be like, you are built for this kind of battle. You are capable of leading difficult conversations. And number one, God gave men this desire to be respected. And I know that from a biblical standpoint, and then I've read it from a secular standpoint of even the word respect, right, is powerful for men. And I think if you want your young men to act respectably, start showing them what it feels like to be respected, and they'll want it. I mean, we had a marriage thing the other day, and for our foundation, and I asked two men that were there off the cuff, I asked the one super powerful man in a high position, and I said, what does your wife's respect mean to you? Without hesitation, everything. I asked the other guy, what does your wife's respect mean to you? And he said, I don't know that I could function without it. Right?
Yeah.
They're both very successful men. And I think society is telling us the opposite. It's telling us that our husbands are jokes. They're people to make fun of, to cut down. They think they're all this, and women are just every bit as much as. And it's like, that's been a really important thing for me every time I get a chance to talk to a woman, because I really didn't understand it as a young married woman at all. I showed up like, we're equal, and we are. It's not that at all. It's just that if it's like a military thing, somebody's got to have ultimately the lead. And when you give it and you respect it, they take it way differently. I mean, you guys are men, you can speak to that. I don't need to tell you, but a man who knows that somebody is counting on him to lead with honor rises to the challenge.
Yeah.
And a woman who gives him that respect, it's like, I don't think women have any idea how much we can slay our men with our words.
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough Podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. Oh, it's like if Colton was to tell me that I let him down in something versus if Lindsay let me know that I let her down in something, that coming from our wife cuts so deep. It's such a deep, deep component of a man. Like, man's biggest desire is respect. And I think, like, women's biggest fear is abandonment and not being like along for the ride, but they do thrive under that leadership dynamic. And I think, culture has, thinking about it now too, it's like a brilliant tactic from the enemy to make man look more like a joke. And that's what we're seeing across all, television media is, the dad is not a leader. The dad is not put together, not physically fit, not mentally sharp. And the spouse is aware of that, making fun of that. And it's a really like genius plan from the enemy to like unravel the fabric of the family, because the family is what is the backbone of the country. And so there's so many attacks coming after the backbone right now from everything we've talked about, from, porn to even like the soft porn across like all media platforms. It's just like a constant attack on things that will really have ripple effects through generations. And I think, for a lot of men that I talk to, whether they're saved or not saved, like the huge part of that is just awareness. Like, are you aware that we are 100% living in a spiritual battleground? Mm-hmm. And if you're not aware of that, that is like step number one, because it's like the analogy of, like, as hunters, we're really good at hunting because the deer doesn't know it's hunting season. Yeah. They have no idea. And you do not want to be in that position in this spiritual warfare that we're living in right now. And there's a difference between knowing that it's hunting season and not knowing. And if you don't know, like, you're just going to get clobbered.
Yeah.
And I think that is, it seems like it's ramped up. And so being aware of it is a huge factor.
It is. And I also want to encourage, for women, we say, well, I want respect too. It's different. It is 100% different. And when a man cherishes you, and he will, because the place he gets his respect, the guaranteed respect, he'll slay dragons for anything that gets in the way of that. Right. Mm-hmm. And you guys are both, nodding your heads. It's like that. I don't think women understand the power we have in giving respect. And like, I've talked to women that have said, and you can see it cringe. I'm like, how many women have said, I'll give you respect when you earn it? And it's like, can you imagine if your husband said, I'll cherish you when you earn it? She would lose her mind. You know what I mean? And it's the same. But anyway, cherish feels a lot like respect. And I think what I've noticed is once women, we understand that respect and we give it, we get 100-fold back from men. But did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I think, treat men at the level that you want them to be at. Yeah. And they will inevitably rise or fall to that. And if you're treating a man like he's the American man on TV right now, or the American husband and father on TV right now, then he's not going to rise above that. He doesn't have any reason to. He's not going to let you down. He's already let you down. It doesn't seem like there's any coming back from that. Yeah. So I think that's an important thing to be conscious of, is expect to treat a man like you want him to be.
Yeah. And I think, you speak to, you're engaged, you're getting married in December, but I feel like you also, I don't know if I've never asked you before, if that's played into your relationship with Carrie, if you knew that you would only be with somebody who is willing or able to give you that respect, or if that even registered.
I don't know that I consciously thought about it. I think subconsciously it was important without probably putting words to it. Yeah. But I certainly, that is a factor, and she's great at that. And as we've been going through premarital counseling with our church, which I think it's funny, we may tell people that, and they're kind of surprised, like, oh, what's wrong? It's like, okay, well, maybe we want to have
nothing's wrong
yet.
Yeah.
Maybe we just want to prepare so that we don't end up like your marriage.
Shots fired.
Yeah, nobody specifically, but even as we're going through that, and I'm reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and he has a chapter named Christian Marriage. He talks about there needs to be a head, because if there's always a council of two, then there's never a majority. So you should often agree, and you should often make decisions together, or almost always, right? Especially the big ones. And so when you go to do that, and then at some point you disagree, you inevitably discuss it, and you still disagree, what happens then? Mm. And for a relationship where you don't have a head, and you don't have someone submitting to that head, then you divorce. Mm-hmm. There's no coming back from that. Or you live separately, emotionally separately. You're not emotionally and spiritually intimate anymore. And that causes a lot of pain, not just for the two in the relationship, but especially if you have kids and people around that relationship. That's what causes broken homes.
Mm. Yeah. And it's yeah. I know it's a hard thing, and it can make a lot of people cringe, but it's such a beautiful thing when it works well, because like you said, you're working everything you can, every angle you can, to kind of find compromise and listen and talk together. And then, okay, at some point, like I had to reconcile with Chris. I mean, I remember reading the books and thinking, oh my God, I really have been giving my opinion a lot. What if I just said, okay, like, I'm going to trust you. And for me to take that step, it was very different the way I grew up and the way I understood things. And, you know, we're equal, so we should have equal say on everything. And, you know, and I mean, we do ultimately, right? I mean, a good man who gets respect loves his wife and wants everything to be, you know, great for her too, obviously. But I had to get to a point where I said, I'm going to trust that God is leading you. And I also have to trust that it may not go perfectly because you're human. And I have to also humble myself and say, just because I thought option B would be better, there's no guarantee it would have been, right? So when you choose option A and I'm like, I thought I told you, you know, it's like I have to just get rid of all of that and say, at some point somebody has to make a decision. So why not you do it? I love you. You're strong. You're good. You're smart. You care about our family. Like, go for it, you know, and I'm with you. And if you want to ask my opinion, I'll give it. But ultimately, okay, if we go that way and it goes south, I'm here for it. I think it's just love. And it's a love that works really well when you do it that way.
For sure.
When a man knows that, like as we're preparing for marriage, and I'm thinking this through, that's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
That's something that when I was thinking about it, especially at the time that we're going through it, like it almost brings me to tears because I don't want to screw that up. Because I know that I'm going to be the head of our family, and so I want to lead well. And what I had to be reminded of, especially by our pastor, was that you are going to screw it up. There are going to be times that you mess it up. And the good thing is that she has or will vow to love you through those times, and you're going to vow to show up again through those times because Christ loves you through it. And I'm not the sum of my mistakes and things that I've done right. I am the sum of Christ. And he took my place, and when I believe that, then I'm able to step into that role and say, I know that I'm going to mess up, but I know that this is a lot of responsibility, and I'm going to have to answer for God for how I led my family. And I'm going to step into that role doing the very best that I can, because in the end, if there is a disagreement, when I cast that deciding vote in this council of two, then the onus is on me.
It is a lot of pressure. And you know what I didn't realize, and by the grace of God, I got to do this with Dad, is to really like genuinely really let him take the lead. And I laughed because I remember saying like, I'm going to really make an effort to do this. And he was kind of looking at me like, you really think you're going to be able to do that? And I was like, I really do, you know? And I mean, to be honest, I cried my way through the book because I honestly thought for a while I could just kind of fake it. And the point of the book is men read you so well when they know you, they are used to reading other men. So like women, we can use our words and this and that, but it's like you have to show up authentically and authentically do it. And I thought this might be kind of scary, and I don't know what this is going to feel like. And I don't know, will I not matter? Will my opinion not matter? And am I removing myself? You know, there was a lot of these questions I had. And when I did it, it was the most freeing, beautiful thing because like you said, the responsibility was on him. He would ask my opinion and I would say, you know, I mean, I think this is what I'm in, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I did. It is a big responsibility. And I do think men will rise to the challenge. And I do think that as women, we have to be really loving and responsive to that too, because, you know, tough men, especially, this is the other thing that we do with our foundation, because we're dealing with servicemen. It's really easy for women to fall into a man who learns how to compartmentalize his feelings may not have them. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
Right. And so to be able to say, I know that there could be areas that are emotional and hard for you, and I'm here to love you through it and not judge you through it, is so powerful. And to give them space to have a feeling that maybe they don't express it the way that we would, but to just know, like, this is a man who takes this role seriously, and I know if it doesn't go well, it's going to hurt for him too.
It's massive.
Yeah.
I was curious, Colton, from your perspective, there is a lot of negativity right now, especially of perceived youth in America. So, you know, we think about our hope and dreams for future generations, and oftentimes conversations in the public arena of like American youth under 21, there is a lot of negativity, concern, worry around where we're headed. But you, with your like unique perspective and demeanor and vision, do you find yourself very alone and unique in how you behave and act, or is there more hope? Like, are you seeing other glimpses of positivity in the youth rising up in a very good way, like in your local community or your state, your town? What's your perspective on kind of the state of the union of like 19, 20, 21-year-olds?
If you're a Christ follower, then there's always hope. And that's one of the beautiful things about our beliefs, is that there's always hope. I've certainly seen it in my communities, especially at church, especially with my unique group of buddies, because it has been incredibly unique, and I'm very blessed to have them in my life. And I see it online as well, not as much because I'm actually not personally on social media anymore, but I've given that role to my fiance to manage for me, which has been a huge blessing to me. We are in the part of the cycle where we've had good times, and good times create soft men, and that's just the truth. And then soft men create hard times create good men create good times, right? And so it just repeats like that. And so there's less, I think in certain ways there's less adversity, especially physically. We don't have the same spiritual standards across the board. In America, like cultural Christianity, I think, is incredibly watered down. And so you don't really have to be a man anymore. You just have to say, well, yeah, I like that Jesus guy, and this is a fine church, and these people are nice to me. I think that's generally cultural Christianity. And I know that there's a lot of people that are on fire for God, that have a serious, staunch belief in God and what he values, and they know that. And I do see that, and I know that there's hope. And it's going to keep going as we inevitably face new challenges. Then we're going to have new people, and new men especially, rise to those challenges and breed that mountain tough ethos, that mountain tough mindset. And it's going to become contagious, because at a certain point we're going to have it. And if you don't have it, then you're going to fall to the fallen secular world.
Yeah, it is a cycle for sure. It seems like, I mean, we've seen it throughout a variety of generations. It is good to know that you still seem to be pretty hopeful and positive about it. Absolutely.
I don't, if we are honest to our faith, I don't think we have a choice but to be hopeful. We know that there's always hope. That's a majority, I think, of what the faith is the hope in the things that we do not yet see. So I think there's always hope. And in addition to that, what I get excited about is seeing it, because I do see it. And I'm blessed to be in a community that has the same values as me. So I get to see it around me a lot. And I see less of it when I travel to places that don't have those same communities. And so that would certainly be hard for me. And what I would encourage people to do when they're in those communities where they find themselves almost ostracized or isolated is do the very best work that you can. Maybe use the internet and social media or whatever to find people nearby, but connect with those people in person. Just like we were talking about earlier, that intangible force multiplier of being in person, man, you just get fired up and ready to roll. And it's just not the same as the kind of communities that you see online, because those people can't hold you accountable. If you don't like the community that you're in online, you just leave and you join another one, and it takes 5 seconds and a few button clicks. And so you don't really buy in, you're not held accountable.
Yeah, I want to speak to that, because it just made me think of something when I thought there was a time where I thought, I wonder if I should start a Bible study. And I really did it because I thought it would be great for my daughter if we had a group of women coming over. And I thought, but who am I to start a Bible study? And what qualifications do I have to do that? It was like, this is ridiculous, And then I thought, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to invite women over. I'm going to cook them dinner, because I also thought, how can I serve busy women, and I thought I can make them dinner every, Tuesday night and invite them over. And I was unsure, but I sent the word out to, 10 or 15 women that I know. And I struggled through the first few meetings of like how to do this or what it might look like. I didn't really buy one. We were at different areas of our faith and different levels of it. And eventually I kind of started to find my stride with it. And then, part of me it was like too heavy and I needed more fellowship and less of my intensity, with really digging into Bible verses and doing all the research. And then eventually we ended up, like now I just try to kind of keep reading the room and figuring it out. And they would come back for fellowship and dinner and they would consistently say just the fellowship of showing up with other women who believe in Jesus and who are taking the time out of their day. But really, I think a positive way to get together. We're not going out, to spend money or, whatever, or be distracted. Like go see a movie is great, but you're distracted. We're having actual connection around a table with food and we're talking about life. And, we ended up doing a study on The Chosen, watch an episode and come in and we'll talk about it. And I send notes and I found it hasn't mattered how I've approached it. The point is come over for a meal and let's just, one of the main things that people were loving is tell me the best and the worst. Let's share the best and worst of our week. And we would just end up in conversations, go around the table and 8 people saying the best and worst of their week. And then other people knew that we were there for, a air quote, Bible study. We'd encourage each other from a faith perspective. And so I would encourage people, like Colton said, start somewhere. The end group has been the original people, invited people, maybe some of them fell off, but anyway, it works. You start somewhere and it just ends up working. And I think that community, when you're there, to open with a clumsy prayer, it doesn't have to be a great prayer, showing up, it matters.
Yeah, it'll figure itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it quite a bit on this show. It's like we all know the devil prowls around us like a lion looking to devour and kill, steal, and destroy. And that's really easy to do to someone when they're alone. And if you're in Africa and you've been to Africa, you've hunted Africa, you've seen Africa, it's like those animals are fairly safe when they're together with their herd and with their tribe. And if that impala gets out by itself, like he is in a bad position and he's very exposed. And it's the same thing in our lives, that if we're completely isolated, the devil is sitting there waiting to devour us, and 24/7 he's looking for an opportunity to devour us. And so we have to be so watchful with this stuff, and the power of community helps so much with that. And I think it helps a tremendous amount with what we were talking about, this whole conversation, that living out your faith and standing firm in your faith and being set apart in how you live your life is really, really difficult to do alone, because you always feel like maybe you're crazy. You feel like maybe you're the weirdo in the group. You feel very challenged when you are at it alone, and that completely changes when you get a few other individuals around you with the same beliefs. Like that power and that courage and that inspiration, and realizing that you're not alone in this fight is phenomenal. And you're right, Taya, it doesn't take much. It takes just a few other believers that are, your mat carriers in your corner that you can live life with, and everything changes.
Yeah.
I think of a few pieces of scripture. One, I think it's 2 Timothy, but confess your sins to one another so that you may be healed. It's not just confess your sins to one another. It's so that you may be healed. When we're struggling with something and we tell each other, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm falling short in this way, and we talk about it and we bring it into the light, then we are really able to address it with a clear vision. It's not just how we perceive it, but we bring in another believer who's able to help us find the reality of the situation. and then bear each other's burdens. I don't remember exactly where that's at, but it's we think about we can do so much more in a group. That's obvious, but I know that when I'm with my group of buddies, and if somebody comes to me with something that they're struggling with, maybe I'm struggling with the same thing, and they say, hey, could you help me with this? Like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing or what to do. I may be struggling with the exact same thing, and then I know the answer. I tell them the answer that I'm struggling with myself, not putting into practice, and then they're able to put it into practice. And then I'm able to be encouraged from that and do the same. It's this weird, I'm going to say it again, intangible factor of being in person, not even being able to do the things that you're saying or prescribing to someone else, and then it works for them, and then that works for you.
Yeah, it's wild. I used to look at the Bible and think there's a bunch of rules and, I'm supposed to, and it's like, no, man, every single thing in there is for your benefit. And I think you said that really well, bearing each other's burdens and confessing your sins out loud. I used to hate the word sin. It's like, oh, whatever, we're all doing it. So it's like, just, confess your missteps, the things you're struggling with. We've had those conversations just in the time we've been hanging out. It's like, I've been able to say, yeah, I think this, and I'm ashamed that I think that. And that's still the truth, that I think that, and I'm working on it. And I feel like the more we can open up those conversations of I'm human, because we live in this cancel culture, right? Where you can't say one thing, or somebody qualifies your whole human existence for your whole entire life as awful because you had this. It's like, if we can start admitting, like, you know what, I thought that at one time. I did. Wow, that's weird. I don't think that anymore. Right? And give the same grace to other people to say, maybe they thought that in that moment. Maybe they were struggling with something. Like, who cares if we're all human and we get really honest about it? Wow, we could set each other free.
Well, yeah, it's so easy to give labels, and I hear all the time, oh, this person's a really good person. And I find myself saying that even. I like this guy and I want to tell somebody else about him. I'm like, he's a great person. It's like, well, what does it really, are any of us good? And the real answer is no. And so then what is it that is good? It's Christ in us. And when we focus on that, and that's been huge for me recently, is realizing that, like you said, sin seems like, oh, you've done something egregious. Yeah. And sin is sin. That doesn't change no matter what it is. But that's exactly what Jesus came to do for us, is to let us live unashamed, knowing that we're human, that we're fallen. Yeah. We were always going to fall and misstep. Yeah. And I think the sooner that we can realize and accept that grace and move forward, the better.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, your audience, I think, are driven people. They're people that are going to push. And it's hard, I think, when you want to be somebody that you can feel good about, not proud in like I'm prideful way, but you're like, I want to be good. I want to be the best I can be. There's this other side that sometimes is hard to swallow, of like, man, and I'm still not, everything I want to be. And that when we can reconcile those and go, yeah, you're not, you never will be. And that's okay. Like, it's hard for a high achiever, I think, to reconcile those two things and to be kind of cool with that until we realize that, man, if the goal is that we're always learning, then we should never have it dialed, right? But we should always be able to look and be like, oh yeah, I could look at that better. Oh, I could do that better too.
But with social media, we're always dialed.
The comparison.
Yeah. Well, anything that we want to show to other people, we never want to post. So, for example, gym culture. You're never posting one of your worst days. Very few, what I would call fitness influencers do that. Yeah. It's bad for your brand. That's not going to inspire people, but it's the reality and it's the truth. And we get caught up in that. And so when we're used to seeing people at their peak, at their best all the time, and then somebody screws up and it becomes public, then that's why we become so hard on this cancel culture. And we're very unforgiving, I think, is because we expect this perfection. Post-COVID, I heard this on Chris Williamson. He was talking Dr. Sarah Hill. And he said, or was it Esther Perel? Anyways, post-COVID, the rates of cosmetic surgery went up drastically. Do you know why?
Comparison.
People are on Zoom, and so they're looking at themselves all the time.
Crazy.
Yeah, and they're realizing all their imperfections, but more than just realizing, they're constantly confronted by it. And when we want to post on social media, but we don't want everybody else to see our imperfections, and so we want to post our very best self. We'll just go get surgery for it, and then we're becoming closer to the ideal person, just like we want to present to everyone else.
That is wild.
Yeah, which never really works anyways. There's such a high rate of depression after people get cosmetic surgery too.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed everything, and it's not the end all. But yeah, it's an odd cultural thing that we're all going to have to deal with and get real with. And I don't know what the answer is, but I know that like God didn't give us the ability to look at ourselves. You realize that? Ever think about that?
It's always looking out.
Yeah, we don't have the ability, but our culture, and I think that's a big way the enemy works. And even with promotion, in my opinion, the best thing for us is to have somebody else do the promotion for us so that we don't have to focus on that, or we don't do that. But that is not the world we live in anymore. You promote yourself or you die, right? And die, career-wise or whatever that's the suggestion anyway. And I think I don't want to say tragic, but almost.
Yeah, it's still God's principles that are going to reign, though. I think it's like culture thinks that you have to promote yourself or you will die. But we know that, like, if we do servant leadership and we're willing to, grab the towel and wash others' feet, that ultimately that'll be the key to success. Not success, but that'll be the key to an abundant life. And it's like we just have to fight that 24/7 because culture is going to tell us that is incorrect or that is the incorrect path. But I think we know that God is sovereign and that the world is not correct about that. But the challenge is that you have to fight a lot of these cultural norms. You have to be very countercultural to walk a Christian walk right now. Maybe it's always been the same, but right now it seems like you have to be extremely countercultural. And I think that's okay. That's what the Bible tells us is, we're going to be set apart. But it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it easier knowing that we are going to be bombarded 24/7 to think a different way and act a different way. Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big, big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long, long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food. And they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code MountainTough, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because that is true. Like, if I speak as if the culture, self-promote or die, you're right. That's the voice that I hear from culture.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we don't have to do it that way. And I also appreciate what you said about the devil is searching like a roaring lion. And I heard a sermon by Pastor Alan Jackson. And he was talking about that. He says, like, the Bible's very specific. It doesn't say like a worm, right? Like a mosquito or a fly, a roaring lion. Like, it's a serious threat.
It's a serious threat.
Right? And it's going to require some work. And sometimes as a Christian in our culture, it's exhausting, I think, and we really have to hold ourselves accountable and be around people that hold us accountable and be willing to risk that not everyone's going to like it. I mean, I remember the early days of, Chris had his Facebook page. He was killed, and I'm talking and doing this, and there was a following growing. And then, my faith is growing. I start talking about God, and people are like, why are you talking about God? I'm out, deuces, and I was like, well, this is where I am. And if I can only be authentic, and you can take me or leave me. And that's what I've decided to do. And I recognize that, it's not going to give, I recognize there's some sort of price to pay for that. I don't know what it is, but I know that I have to do it, and God will bless or not bless according to his will. And I believe that, like you said, Christians will find their way, and God will find the way for them. I feel like I'm not really making a whole lot of sense, but I think it's a trap that we have to watch out for.
I think you're making sense.
For sure.
Okay, cool. Validated.
Colton, I think it would be cool for you to share with our audience. We were talking about it the first night at dinner, but it was really fascinating to me. You made the intentional decision to not go the traditional college route, and you made that decision based on like a lot of thought. It wasn't an off-the-cuff decision at all. But the decision to take a slightly different path than the majority and pursue the brand and build the brand. And we chatted at dinner that I do think that is an amazing route to go, because everything in my life experience has taught me that the people that are successful, even not worldly standards of success, but biblically, they have a passion and they have a craft that they have mastered. And I do believe now that I've done the college thing, I've done the corporate thing, I've done the outdoorsy thing, we've started a company. It's just more and more obvious to me that people that have a passion and a craft, it's kind of like the sky's the limit. And like traditional academics don't factor into that at all from what I've seen. And we've been trying to do the same thing at our household. So with going into year 6 of homeschool, our perspective and what we teach the girls is, like, we're not worried about the traditional American university system at all. What we want to make sure that you are aware of is that if you have like a really high passion in something and you're willing to be a self-learner and learn that craft, and then put in all the reps to master that craft, it is definitely the sky is the limit. So like my oldest is very passionate about baking. She just turned 13, but she's been baking since she was 6. And then when she was 12, she had a baking business. And it's like so awesome for me to see that, because I don't know if like her starting a bakery is in her future long term. But what I do know is if you're an entrepreneur at 12, 13, 14, you're going to be well equipped when you're 21, 22, 23. But I think those are the ingredients, and it sounds like you figured that out in a way as well.
Yeah, I'd be slow to say I figured anything out.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly I knew I just, being in elementary school and middle school, I knew I was going to go like to one of the most prestigious universities, and because that's what the best of the best do, and I was going to be the best of the best. And then I got to about junior year, and I grew up a lot, and there are a number of factors. Of course, I'm a junior in high school, and so it's impossible to not have some of that teen rebellious spirit, and I have some of these teachers that I don't like the way they do things, and I'm like, this is unprofessional, or this is inefficient, or whatever. You've got these silly rules and I don't like them. We do all this homework for no reason. And so then I'm like, I'm just going to subject myself to have to submit to that same authority at a greater level at a university. They're great professors, and I know that professors that I really don't like, and I really didn't want to do that. Did you want to say something?
I always feel compelled. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel compelled to say, meanwhile, he's like straight A's honor classes, okay? And like never seems to be doing homework. So and the model student, no complaints, right? No teachers are ever seeing this. This is his inner dialogue. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't call it out to him. And a lot of my teachers I really had great relationships with. But that was one thing that I knew that I didn't like. I was recognizing, especially because I graduated in 23, which is post-COVID, seeing everything online, that college is a breeding ground for secularism, essentially, and extreme leftism, which I'm very much opposed to. So I was like, and then my professors are going to not only have these silly rules, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, they're going to be passionate about the wrong things. I'm like, I don't want that. And then I recognize that I have an incredibly unique opportunity with American Sniper as a legacy, which was not really a brand. It was IP that my mom had done enough things with to keep it alive and keep it in our family, for the purpose of, if McKenna, my sister, or I wanted to do anything with it, then we'd be able to. Yeah. I also had all of these people in my life, mentors that had a lot of knowledge, that were very successful, okay, why do you go to trade school? To be good at your craft, because people who do that craft are there teaching you how to do that craft. Like, okay, I don't even think if I went to school for business, I would learn a lot. I'm sure of it. I still would learn a lot. I believe that. And I'm not against school as a whole. The most successful entrepreneurs are not professors at colleges. Mm-hmm. And I know some very successful entrepreneurs. And so I can go ask them real world personal experience, and then also have them by my side and say, hey, am I doing this right? What can I do differently? So I'm recognizing all these opportunities, not to mention some of the most successful entrepreneurs in history didn't even graduate high school, much less college. So I'm like, okay, it might be beneficial to do this, and I would certainly learn some things, no doubt. I do want to go to college at one point for apologetics and maybe some business on the side or something, but it's absolutely not a necessary factor in becoming very successful in being an entrepreneur. So that was all of those were all of the logical reasons. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I have a girlfriend that I've been dating for 2 years at the time, that I knew I was going to marry, and was just basically counting down the days. If I go to school, I can't make enough money probably soon enough to marry her when I want to. So that's just another reason. And then I'm passionate about the brand American Sniper, about the legacy. So what that means to me is I get to build a company around a legacy. I have the benefit of having an audience that care about this, that know me to some extent, that know my mom, that know our family and our story. and I get to take that and run with it. And so I'm building a company with 5 core pillars that my father and I shared, which are godliness, patriotism, service, passion, and excellence. I think that pretty much envelops everything in the person I want to be and in the people I want to be around and the communities that I want to build. And so you asked me at dinner last night, like, what's your big vision? Because right now I do apparel, some lifestyle apparel, which I like, and I'm going to continue to do. And I have an amazing collaboration with Wiley X Shooting Glasses that I love, that I think they've done a great job. They're amazing people to work with. And they're veteran founded, and they are also passionate about the same values as me, which is great. Always good to work with them. And it's a great product. I love them. And then I want to move more into the tactical space now, with the big picture goals being I want to provide community for these individuals. I give back to TACF, which is Taya and Kyle Foundation, where they serve service marriages. I love talking about it. I'll let her talk about it some as well, but incredible success statistics. And I've seen the way that a service marriage serves so many other people in the community, especially the kids, which lead to thriving marriages down the line. Yeah. Because we also know there's an epidemic of divorce in America. So I get to do all this. I want to throw community events, like imagine High Rocks or a Spartan race. And they don't have to all be quite so physical, but where these people come together and they know they're going to be with people that have the Mountain Tough ethos. They're going to be with people that are American sniper minded. And so that's really what it's all about. And then providing those same people, military, fire, LEO, EMS, whatever, providing them with quality products that they can rely on. That also we recognize there's not, to my knowledge, there's probably very few law enforcement officers that are millionaires, right? So they're not going to be buying the most innovative thing at that time. But they want something that's quality and reliable, and so that's what I want to show up and give to them. And they know, okay, this person has these same exact values as me. They value the unseen service to many that I provide.
That's incredible. Yeah. I cannot wait for your first event.
Yeah,
that's going to
thank
be
you.
amazing.
Me too.
Yeah.
You're going to be there.
That's going to be incredible. Yeah. Like people rallied around in person, like with everything that we've talked about today. The events are going to be unreal. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
And for you, it's kind of been, in a lot of ways, it's been like a startup journey, even though you had some of that audience. But like you're learning all of this on the fly,
which is how I like to do it. I like to learn experientially, and I much prefer to learn a lesson the easy way, which is you tell me, and now I know. And so I don't have to learn what we say is the hard way, which I know plenty of people who do that, and that just doesn't make sense to me. So if I can avoid it, I will. But I also get to get my hands in there and try stuff out. And I mean, the most simple thing I can think of is like A/B testing. Yeah. In any scenario, it doesn't have to be marketing, but you try this, it worked. Try something else, it worked better, or it did worse, and so I go back to the original. So I'm so incredibly blessed with the opportunity to do it. And that also means I get to do it my way. So I get to build a company with the ethos that I envision.
Did you get some societal pressure and kickback, peers, friends, family around not taking the college route?
A little bit. And I say a little bit because a lot of people have mentioned it to me, like, hey, don't forget to go to college kind of thing. And I don't blame them. I just, for the most part, I don't think they recognize the opportunity that I see. And I don't think you can't measure the effort that they're willing to put in. And so I knew I believed in me more than I believed in a school. And so I like to mess with my mom and say she's my biggest op. In reality, one of my very biggest supporters. But she definitely does, and this is part of her ideation skill set, is points out, hey, here are the roadblocks that you could run into. Here are the things, like if you don't go to school now, when will you go to school? If you're married and depending on when you have kids, and are you going to want to go to school then? And I certainly recognize and appreciate that. And I know that she found a lot of value in going to school, and not just from what you learn in the curriculum, but in the people and culture at school. And there are many other people, especially the older people, when that was the thing that you do, is you go to school and you get a good job. And I don't blame them for thinking that way. I also think there's a lot of room to recognize that we don't live in the same America that we lived in decades ago, especially when things are so online and can go viral or can grow with, we've talked a lot about the importance of community. And for a business, it's not absolutely necessary for community. Mm-hmm. It's a huge bonus, and I love it. But that's not necessary, and that's a new thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I was definitely raised where there was no question if we were going to college or not. We were going to college. And then, but there's a part, too, that while, my jaw may have hit the floor and been like, what? I also, there's such comfort in having the privilege and the honor of raising kids who are faithful. Because I know that if they're praying, God will lead them.
Yeah. And
I also know that it's not my job to make sure that they never suffer. That's an impossible job. And we're all going to suffer, and we're all going to be refined in it. The question is, will you suffer well? And I believe that both of my kids have learned how to do that, not by my design, but by God's design, what he would allow. I don't think it's what he wanted. I think it's what he allowed because he knew he would be able to show himself to them. And also Colton's discipline, his mind of strategy, his desire to show up, his leader. It's like, yeah, do your thing. You're going to figure it out. And I think that I've seen a lot of danger in parents who maybe are trying too hard to push a certain thing. I do have the benefit of believing that my kids are praying, and I do have the benefit of knowing that God will lead a praying heart when it's sincere and authentic. And so with that, I can pull back quite a bit and be praying to God too, like lead them, show them they're yours before they're mine, and not have the arrogance to think that I know how it's going to go for them. How would I know?
Man, think about the amount of worry that diminishes, just knowing that both your kids are following the Lord.
Right.
It's a game changer.
100%.
Compared to if they weren't, the numerous things you would have to worry about in addition to their salvation.
Yeah.
But with life really just being a vapor and a mist, knowing that they are following the Lord changes the whole entire game.
Everything.
It's just that comfort of knowing that now, no matter what happens, that we're all going to be okay. I consistently feel that way. If I want to help people, and it's one of the reasons why I haven't shied away at all of my faith, because I know that I can't help everybody. I don't have enough information, or, I don't know what everybody's going to suffer with. I can't do that, but I know who can. Mm-hmm. And so if I can encourage anybody's walk with God, then he's got the rest covered. And I can do it not just in theory, but I've lived it. I know it. I know it with every part of my being. So I have great confidence in that. And I want it for everyone, because life is hard enough even with faith, right? And even knowing that God is leading, that you'll still hurt, you'll still suffer, you'll still bleed. It's just a game changer to know that he's there, though. Yeah. For more than a century, America's sportsmen and women have led the way in paying for the restoration of wildlife, conserving habitat, and investing in the future of our natural world. This is a legacy built not on what we take ourselves, but on what we give back. That's the nature of conservation, paying it forward for the next generation. This is the reason Mountain Tough is a proud partner of Wild Sheep Foundation, an organization committed to keeping and putting wild sheep on the mountain. If you're not already a member, learn more today at wildsheepfoundation.org. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit here. I asked Colton about the state of the union on kind of the younger adults. But Taya, with the work you are doing with the foundation, what is kind of the state of the union currently that you're seeing the landscape around American marriages and service member marriages?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked. It's such a niche thing, right? Because less than 1% of the population serves, not just in the military, but less than 1% is in military or first responder community. So it's a very small amount, and their marriages have been under attack like everybody's, and then multiplied. The attacks are multiplied when they serve. And we've noticed that the statistics that the military releases or that you might try to find online are almost erroneous. I mean, you ask anybody in the military or the first responder community, and they're like, that's ridiculous. I know most people are in their second and third marriage and divorced and suffered. And the Army did a study, and the information that you extrapolate from it is that 80% of service suicides are relationship related.
Dang.
And it's not the fault of the people in the relationship, right? There's no shame on the surviving spouse. It's more a product of these marriages are different. Who has the tools to show them? Who has the tools that they can count on and it's going to be confidential? And so when they can't figure out love, that usually can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because that's the thing that we think we should be able to do just by being human. And if they think that their family is going to be better off without them, or their spouses, which is never true, by the way, ever, ever, ever true. And there's a contagious component to suicide too. So I'm going to take a drink. Sorry, So with the service marriages, I know because I lived it. Chris, there was a 97% divorce rate in the enlisted guys when Chris was in the SEAL teams. And just the fact that the divorce rate was so high had him thinking, I'm going to marry you, but I don't expect it to work. And I didn't realize that until as the years went by, it would creep out. And I thought, what a sad, sad thing, right?
Yeah.
Here's a Christian man who comes from a family. His parents are still married, and everything you would see of him would say, this is a guy that's in it forever. And yet that doubt can creep in because of what you see in the community. So it's a community thing too, a contagious thing. And what we realized is that I believe that by the grace of God, I saw the things that made our marriage work. And then I recognize that you have this warrior spirit from the service member and their spouse typically. So we can't come in with the approach of, oh, come in and we'll either coddle you or we'll talk about your weaknesses. Like the first thing they do when they come in the door is they take a strengths finder test, the Clifton Strengths Finder. And then we get their top 5 strengths. Then we go, cool, now we're going to work from your strengths. For 2 years, we're going to stay with you, because marriage is not an overnight fix or a weekend fix. And we're going to work from your strengths. So they do, we've been able to do it online so that we can help more people and work on their schedules, because that's also a big part. They don't have the flexibility of schedules. And we can come from a strengths perspective on all the important topics for their life. Like a civilian counselor might say, make sure you're home for dinner every night at 6 p.m. or make sure you have at least one date a week. That's not going to work for this community. How can we do the quick touches? How can we do it when your ship's in the night? How can we do it when you have shift work, when you're on deployment? How do you flirt? How do you manage finances? How do you do all these things and execute it well? The physical intimacy, financial intimacy, because like Colton said, they're not rolling in money either. So we get into all of it from a strengths perspective. Open up conversation. We do it with the couple and a coach, and then we have small men's group, the community you guys were talking about. The men are super hungry for it. And we do a small women's group. They stay in touch for years after the program is done. We've studied it. Baylor University has studied it. 99% success rate.
Dang.
Yeah, right. And it's the people who show up. Like there's no program that does that on their own, as I told you earlier too. It's the people who, they're hungry for the tools. They want their marriages to last. Because let me tell you, you see trauma, domestic violence, abuse against children, horrific accidents. You need to know that something in this world is okay, right? And so at the end of the day, that's what they can have when they come through our program, is that they can have hope, they can have community. And the community also is that we're not putting them with people they work with. We're getting them in community with people all across the country. And we might have an Army guy with a firefighter, with a police officer, with a spec ops guy, and they're coming together and saying, we can relate and we can get vulnerable fast.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to something too.
Yeah.
these people are hungry. First of all, they're in a service-oriented job, so they're
Yeah.
ready to serve,
True.
especially, and that is the heart of what a marriage should be, is serving.
Mm.
And a lot of them get so exhausted with the awful things that they see, is that they give up in their marriages. Over 30% of the couples that come in to TACF are in crisis mode. And I know this because you've told me, but essentially they've got the divorce papers ready and signed, ready to sign
when they show up.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we did this to show to somebody, to family, that we tried to prove it to ourselves, to show it to somebody else. Despite that, over 30% are in crisis mode, still over 99% success rate. And I think that's incredibly
that's incredible.
Impressive.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool to watch. And we have the guys that are like, you know, the testimony at the end is like, I can't believe we almost didn't make it. And, you know, some of my favorites are like, you know, the empty nesters in their 50s was another couple, and they're like, we're cooking naked in the kitchen together. It's so cool. You know, I'm like, yes, hell yeah, that's awesome. And then we got couples that were on the brink of divorce who are older, second marriage for each of them. And they were like, you know, our kids call and we're just like, oh, I don't know where your mom or your dad is or whatever. Pretty much done. Same thing. They thought they'd give it a shot. They double date with their kids now. They're adult kids. Like it's a family that benefits. There's another couple that was like, we just thought our kids were teenagers and they were stuck in their rooms. No, he found out through this program that his kids one Christmas, he came around the corner. He's like, are y'all betting? What are you doing? Are you gambling? And they were like, oh, like, this is awkward. They were taking bets on who was going to ruin Christmas first, mom or dad.
Dang.
But that year, there was no problem. Their
Wow.
parents had gone through the program and they were like, I guess nobody wins this year. And he was like, it was a horrible and beautiful thing to see all at once. They had no idea the impact on their kids, and their kids were back in the living room, hanging out, not in their bedrooms. You know, it's like there's the best gift you can give your kids is a happy marriage. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some effort, and it's so worth it. I mean, we have other couples that come in, and one of them I just talked to recently, and she was like, you know, I mean, we've been together since high school and we're happy and we're good. And I run, you know, she runs an organization for some wives and all this stuff. And because we've done some work with her, we were like, different stuff. We were like, go through our program anyway. We're like, just come. And she was like, I'm shocked actually, because I thought, we're pretty good. And she's like, the level of next level that we're at now is so cool, and we're doing different things and we're spending time together differently, rediscovering each other. And what a beautiful thing for people who are giving it all to be able to get, you know, to have a success at home, and something after all that trauma and all the awfulness they see in the world, to have something precious to come home to, something that is good.
Generational impacts too.
Yes.
Not only with their own family, but with the work they're doing, like generational impacts in communities. It's crazy how strong that is, like how much of a game changer that is.
They get excited. Like they start saying, I want to run this in my own community. And we're working toward that to get something together where they can take it. But it's always like, okay, finish the 2 years for like finish the program fully. But we love your excitement. Like refer your friends. We'll start taking care of them. But yes, we want you to be an alumni leader. And so we're working toward that too. But it's really rewarding work to see people who are willing to carve out the time. And it's disheartening sometimes when you see one person in the couple really wants it and the other person is resistant. It's like, I can't tell you a less scary environment than this. You know, I know it sounds like it's tough because you're gonna have to look at yourself a little bit, but we do it from your strengths, and we're doing it with other people who want to do life with you. And our coaches all have experience, you know, somehow or another with military or service. So
how do couples get into the program?
Yeah, it's TACF is what we call it. So it's Taya and Chris Kyle family, but tacf.org, and there's just an apply. They just fill out a form.
And it's no cost.
No cost.
Incredible.
So any of you rich folk listening to this who want to donate, like, come on, help pay for it. But no cost to the couple.
So donor funded so that the service members can come in at no cost.
That's right, 100%.
And then they'll apply, and after they're accepted, they'll be in a 2-year program.
Yeah, and that can sound a little bit daunting, but it's like the first program is 10 to 12 weeks with a coach, just the coach and the couple working from strengths. And then the next thing they do is they have a small women's group for, 8 to 10 weeks, small men's group, 8 to 10 weeks at the same time, same topics from a different gender perspective. And then you might have a month off in between your programs or a month or two, right? And then we're doing strength training your marriage 2.0. So the things you learned in the first strength training, we were getting feedback of like, those are so good. Can you help us dive in more? Like, it's all proven theories and methods and, action oriented. And so we just developed that and we're kicking off the pilot of that. And then we're having Mastering Your Service Marriage, which is a small couples group that we launch in January. And we do an overnight, we send them on an overnight date and kind of show them how things can sabotage your date time together, and that even when it feels like it's impossible for you to carve that out, you can. And we take away the stress of the finance. So we pay for everything for that, for a nice time. And, it's an honor and a privilege, and it's been a lot of work. We've been through a lot of different attacks, I feel like, from the enemy. And there have been times, frankly, where I've been like, I want somebody else to take it over. I don't know. And then we get the feedback from people and I feel like truly from the beginning, it's been God's mission. And I mean that because I wasn't going to start it in 2014. I was going to start it later. And I had 3 reasons why I couldn't start it that year. And God just went 1, 2, 3, like boom, those reasons are out from no doing of my own. So I was like, got it. Okay, this is your mission. Don't let me screw this up. And that was through deep trauma and grief for years and different attacks that we had and different people helping run it. But we've made it through all that. And now we've got a lean, mean fighting machine force, and I'm in it full time. And I feel like we're in a place where it's just an honor and a privilege to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
And you just finished filming for SMCCP, right?
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, okay. So we partner with Baylor University, and we just completed this service marriage counselor certification program to teach civilian counselors who want to coach this population, because a lot of Vietnam veterans I talked to along the way, and they were like, we wish you'd have been around. We went to a civilian counselor because there might be programs within the organizations, but typically people don't trust that that's going to stay confidential or not affect their career, or that they're going to know what they're doing. And so anyway, these veterans, they said, we went to civilian counselors and they didn't know our life. And so we ended up getting divorced, and they still 20 years later, 30 years later are hurting from wishing that they could have done it. And so that really highlighted a need that we need to help civilian counselors who are interested in this have a program.
That's huge.
Where we can teach it. So yeah, we're just putting the final touches on that, and hopefully have that offering early next year.
That's massive. And we're gonna quiz you on the name of that at the end.
Yeah, it's like all of the names for our stuff is so acronyms. Freaking long. Yeah, it's so long.
Well, the enemy doesn't like marriage either, so that is certainly one thing that he attacks. If you think about him roaring devouring us like a roaring lion, certainly he's going to come after marriage.
Oh yeah.
And he is and always has been. And that's one thing that is so awesome about what you are doing, is that I know from like the Mountain Tough community that the military community, the firefighting community, the law enforcement community, it is a very unique, different lifestyle in a lot of ways from other professions that are out there. And so the fact that you guys are focusing on that and can talk directly to that community is a game changer. I mean, and there's a lot of nuances to all 3 of those communities that make it something that does need to be specialized to be effective. And even inside of that orbit, structural firefighters are different than LEOs, and LEOs are different than fire, and MIL is different than both. And they all have little nuances that someone knowing about them to serve them is awesome.
Yeah. And I smile really big when you say that, because part of the magic of it, right, is that the military and law enforcement, like it gives them a chance to do kind of what Colton was talking about earlier, which is to look from the outside and say, I feel like I know what advice I might give you for your situation that's slightly different than mine, but it gives them a perspective shift too. And then they try to implement on their own, and they help each other out, and they're excited to do it. The men the women figure out usually a way to stay in touch, and the men have asked us, like, can you set up some future Zoom meetings for us to stay in touch so that we don't lose this community that are different but support each other really well.
Yeah. Yeah, that bond, that brotherhood.
It is, and it's a different brotherhood, right? And it's somebody right outside their community that still gets it, that they can get really vulnerable with really fast because there's no risk. They don't live in the same town. You know, they're not attending the same church. They don't go to work at the same places. And you're right, the nuances, I mean, even from, and I think I would not, let me just give you an example of some things that I would not have thought until I lived it. If Chris was going for deployment, I could feel myself preparing and going, oh, I need to get used to like being independent and not so wanting to be with him all the time. And so I'd want to pull away, and then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to miss him so much. I want to come closer. And both people are fighting that, like getting on their mindset for gaming, you know, the game, meaning, you know, the combat or whatever they're heading into, the thing that they've trained for. And for first responders, it's their shift that's coming up that they're preparing for. And every time you're preparing, they could die, and I have to be okay. And so don't get too attached, but oh my God, get really attached, because what if it's the last time, right? There's things like that. Or there's the return home where you've been like, you know, sexting, texting, emailing, talking dirty on the phone. I can't wait, the things I'm going to do, right? And then you get back and it's like, oh my God, you've really been gone that long. And we both changed so much, you know, because there was so much seriously happening, and like the things that you think will be one way and then aren't. And then you need the tools to try to navigate through that. And I mean, we just get really specific about it. Like, you know, if your spouse is at work and it's long shifts and you're pulling double duty and you're taking care of extended family, and, you know, and you want to flirt with your husband, but maybe you need to give him a heads up. I've been flirting with you all day, and the crap just went south. So like, it's not that I'm not interested. I'm just telling you, I might need some time, or I might need, you know, how do you like really get into it to make it realistically communicating things that aren't natural necessarily to, and there is no routine in those lives. So it's not like, hey, you know, I go to the gym 3 nights a week, you know, and you know, I do that. No, so how do you do self-care and make sure that your sex life is strong, and your financial life, that you're communicating on it? And because a lot of times too, if your ship's in the night, you know, you're just trying to do the bare minimum, or you put your kids first because nobody's seeing the kids. And so you try to do that, but then your relationship sucks. So like, you know, there's just a lot of things that you got to dial in. And how do you deal? A lot of times the guys, they deal with trauma. They don't want to tell their wife because it was so hard for them. Either A, they don't want to come home and relive it to tell them, or they don't want to burden their wife. But there's a bridge there there's a gap, right? And we need to build a bridge and figure out, how are you going to do that? How can you communicate it? You know, what's your code word to each other? Like, something just went south, but the kids are right here. Let's talk, but not tonight, right? Because now I'm tired. Or maybe we don't talk about it in the house, because we have that too, where it gets too heavy in the house. So they find a place outside of the home where they talk about some of the really horrific stuff they see. You know, there's like you said, it's nuanced.
Yeah, that's incredible work. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a privilege. It's been hard sometimes, but like very, very important.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming out to Montana. It was a super fun day. Definitely a huge honor to have you guys here, and really enjoyed the last couple of days from when you arrived to today. And I mean, one of the special things about today, I think, was just the drive time gave us a lot of opportunities to have some really good conversations and get to know each other better. And in the hike, I think the like open, transparent, just like vulnerable conversations were a highlight for sure. So appreciate you guys, love you guys, and glad you made it out.
Well, Dustin, I really thank you. It's been a heavy couple of weeks, and being out in nature. I mean, you took us to the barbecue place, and I felt myself dancing to the music, like I'm alive again, you know. You're a wonderful encourager, and you're a great role model for somebody who's showed up to do things that are different and hard, and you've made them work. And so I think that's been, I mean, as a mom, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Colton has this relationship, and also just being in nature and in Montana, and your generosity in flying us out and taking us out for meals. And it's been a total reset for me. So thank you.
Love it.
Yeah, we're incredibly blessed and honored that you would invite us out and treat us so hospitably. It's been amazing. We love nature. We love the mountains. We love Montana as well, and those are just bonuses to being able to spend the time with you that we have.
That was awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with the Kyles. Remember, we're always looking for those golden nuggets out of these episodes to apply to our lives. And the one for me out of this show was Taya talked about it a lot, and it's just been a reoccurring theme in the Mountain Tough episodes this year and in my own life. But Taya talked about her program and how first responders connecting with first responders, cops with cops, firefighters with firefighters is changing the game for marriages. But what that really makes me think about is we have to have people in our corner. You know, life isn't easy, but we have to have people in our life that we can talk about the things that are going on. We got to have a community. We got to be vulnerable. We have to have that sisterhood, that brotherhood where we can share things, unpack things, and bring things into the light. So if you're not doing that, find a way to do that. You know, the best way is local, because there is something special about being face-to-face with someone. But nowadays, there are a lot of great virtual options as well. So think about adding that camaraderie, that fellowship somewhere in your life. It does change the game, and Taya really did a great job of explaining that today. What a great time with the Kyles here in Montana. We had a phenomenal time together. Very special group of people. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next episode.